Hey, thanks for stopping by another No BS social media update. You know, when I make notes about what topics I'm going to talk about, I don't necessarily plan them out for what's going on in the world, although every now and again, well, things kind of cosmically coincide. Of course, I can move those topics, but lately the NFL has been under fire about how they've handled the PR of all the nightmare with the players, with the spousal abuse, with the child abuse, and Commissioner Roger Goodell is really coming under fire. And while it's not directly social media related, it gives you good thought for social media, because a lot of the people are doing the complaining on social media, and the one thing he's avoiding doing is going on social media to answer them back. We're talking about mistakes when it comes to social media. The larger celebrity, the larger personality, the larger fan base you have, the more possibility you have for making mistakes. And when I mean mistakes, I mean for saying something that just totally upsets the audience, for trying to be funny and not being very funny at all. It reminds me, I think it was last year, a PR executive out of New York, this shows you how small it can go, a PR executive out of New York was getting on a plane to go to Africa and made a joke about, getting AIDS in Africa. Well, from the time it took her to get on a plane in New York to fly to Africa, social media lit up. And by the time she arrived in Africa, she'd been fired from her PR job. She wasn't famous, she wasn't a celebrity, but because she didn't think something through, it took her a long time to recover. There were a lot of mistakes, there were a lot of apologies. You've got to think about those things. I don't want to say no drunk tweeting, because I've dealt with artists who tend to drunk tweet a little bit too much. But I think sometimes you need to think through whatever you're going to say. It's much like the old, when you're going to send an email or when you're going to send a text message, write your post, stop, walk away from it for a second, come back and look at it. Is it okay? And then do it, especially if it's anything controversial. Country music singer Blake Shelton, who I don't work with, but I have friends who have worked with him, not through the social media world, but on the record side in the past, is one of those who admits to being politically incorrect, who has no problem being politically incorrect. But if that's the tone you're going to take, then you might be able to get away with some social media gaffes, if you will. If not, you really need to consider how you're going to handle it. And it's not a matter of what mistake you make, it's a matter of how you handle it. First things first, sincere apologies always work. A lot of times, and you'll see this, a lot of times major corporations will try to jump on something in terms of trying to make money incorrectly. I remember like in Pearl Harbor Day last year, there was somebody who was like, isn't Pearl Harbor Day a good day to save on flying or something? I mean, it was just totally, incorrect, and you really got to watch those things. Yeah, sure, when you've got big companies with young people manning the social media booth, they're the ones who are going to make mistakes. They're the ones who are going to tweet something out incorrectly and are going to cause the problem. But it's how quickly you react to it, how quickly you respond to it, and more importantly, how quickly you apologize for it. I want to say, even if you're not sincere about the apology, you really have to be sincere. It's going to come across that you are insincere about that apology. So it doesn't matter how big a celebrity, how big a star, how big you are, and it doesn't matter how big your fan base is. Imagine if you have a fan base of 1,000 people, let's say 1,000 Twitter followers or 1,000 Facebook followers, whatever, and you say something to upset 100 of them. That's 10% of your following right there. And it's the old saying, just because you say something people don't like, you may not know because they didn't respond, they didn't react. And again, what happens is, especially when other people latch onto it, that's when it can really snowball into being trouble. So always think before you tweet, or Facebook status if you will. And more importantly, if it comes time to making a mistake, acknowledge you've made a mistake, apologize for the mistake, and then deal with the fallout the best you can, no matter at what step you are in your career. The folks who are bigger in their career, they've got PR people to help them out through that. You may not have that option, but if you're truly, honestly apologetic about something that you didn't mean, then you're going to be better off for it. And if you thought it all the way through, you're probably not going to enter into that anyway. Next week, another No BS social media update right here. NoBSSocial.com, IntensitySocial.com, also on our No BS Social YouTube page. Love for you to stop by. See us next week. Thanks.